Today, I am going to be walking you through this little abstract painting. Can you hear the peepers in the back? I'm outside because my house is a mess and there really isn't a place to film myself. There's a place for me to film making, but not me yapping. So today I'll be walking you through this. I got some new paints and I just wanted to play and see what kind of lovely palette they would make. And this is 3 colors: Prussian blue, Quinacradone violet, and Naples yellow deep. Naples yellow deep is a very warm yellow, so I wasn't sure that was going to work really well with the cools of Prussian blue is a very cool blue, and Quinacradone violet is a very cool red. So those 2 cool colors mixed with a warm. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. It didn't make a very beautiful orange, not one that I liked anyways, but I thought that together this combination was very beautiful and very spring-like, which you can see we still have snow here, but it will be spring soon. The peepers are telling me so. So enjoy! Okay, so we have Prussian blue hue. Looks like this with a little white added. Quinacradone violet. This is actually huge. I love those together. They make me happy. Then we have some Naples deep, which is a really warm yellow, and these are very cool reds and blues, so sometimes they don't play nice together. Let's see the purple that they make. Beautiful. Hello. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of yellow in this purple, this lavender, to desaturate it. And let's see what happens. Oh yeah. So this yellow, I'm gonna use it to desaturate that purple. It's really, really faboo. Look at that. Ooh, I like that. Now, what happens when we mix? Okay, this is the orange we get. Maybe not what you were thinking. Good morning, sweetheart.
Hi.
Sort of like a skin tone I'm making here. Not digging that. Let's see what happens when we mix the yellow with the blue. Well, you know, I do like that. I do like that. I might even like that. That's hard to see that with those. So we have a cool blue, a cool red, and we're mixing it with this warm yellow, which can end up, this happens to people when they don't understand why they're not getting a beautiful poppy orange, or sometimes when you're trying to make purple, you're getting like a dark plum, or even like kind of like a bloody brown color. It's because you're mixing cool and warm colors together. And when I say that, what I mean is these 2 colors lean more towards the blues, the cool side of our color wheel, and this color leans more towards the yellow, red, the warm side. So say if we had, I don't have a light yellow here, but if I had more of a lemony yellow, maybe that would play different with these two cool colors. However, I really like what happens when I desaturate that purple with that yellow, and I like the green. So let's see what I can make with this. All right, I'm gonna play. So I'm gonna take this guy and just make some marks on here. Since I like this blue, I'm just gonna follow some of these blue marks, or follow some of these pencil lines with my blue. This I always call, this is like my call and response. I'm just playing. I don't really know what I'm doing other than playing with the paint. So I know I love this blue color, and I love this red color too. And I loved what they made combined. So in the beginning here, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use what I know that I liked. I'm gonna take in a lot of white. I'm gonna stay away from the orange. I'm not gonna mix yellow and red together. So right now I kind of have, you know, a bit of a dirty brush is what I would call it, because I'm not cleaning my brush a ton. I want to get some paint on the paper. I know I always say this, but it's really, really true. And then I can have something to respond to too. I just wanted to speed this part up a little bit. I am filling in the painting, making sure I get all those. It's kind of like a paint by number. I've said this before, but it is true. I create these little spaces for myself, and then I just go crazy filling them in with the luscious colors that I've made. This is the first layer, and I want paint on the paper. I want something to respond to. I want darks and lights. I'm not using any water actually right now. I'm wiping my brush a little bit sometimes, but I'm kind of using that brush with all the other paints on it because there's only two colors and they are harmonious and they look beautiful together. So I don't really have to worry about keeping a very clean brush at this point. Oh, look at that. That's some fun stuff right there. Let's let that dry. Okay, let's see. Look at this. This is gorgeous. Gorgeous. Why don't we cut some of these just to see what they would look like if we popped them in this painting? I definitely am going to do some of this. Desaturate. This is gorgeous, and I could leave it like that and cut this up into tiny pieces or add more, excuse me, and just stick to the colors of the Prussian blue and the Quinacradone violet. But Like, I don't know, there could be something really nice about that. This is a good way to tell if you want to add something. Ooh, that's a completely different vibe. Right? Very different vibe than this. I think I'm gonna do that guy. And I'm gonna dull things down a little bit and see where it takes me. I'll make some, this is nice and dry, so I can bring on a second layer and scratch through some of this, and I'll make some paint up so I can just paint and not think too hard about, I'll make my colors up. That's what I should have said. All right, I wanted to share this with you before I get started. So I have my Quinacradone violet, my Prussian blue, and my yellow right here. I made this really delicious yellowy green, more of a blue green. Then I made a purple with these two, and then I took some of that purple and added a little yellow to it to gray it down. These are really dark, right? And these are more mid-value. And then I have my white here, because I'm going to be adding chunks of white to this. So these aren't the only colors and values I'm going to be using, but it's what I'm starting out with. And this time, last time I only used this paintbrush. This time I'm going to mix it up. I have these guys that I can use just to make some different lines. And I have my palette knife. I have this old palette knife that's kind of bent, and it doesn't really mix flat, but it works great for line work. Okay, let's get started. Now I'm gonna come in with some of those other colors we talked about, and that's my kitty cat. Some gray. I've kind of grayed stuff down a little bit. I'm going over, so I'm putting a layer of paint on top of another layer of paint. So I'm making those darks darker, the lights lighter. You can see it starts to create like some drama. And then I can come in if I want and scratch some of that paint away and have the layer of paint underneath show. I'm actually working on oil paper here, Sennelier oil paper, which I really like to work on paper a lot with both acrylics and oils. And then I use an X-Acto to scratch gently, lift up the paint and show what the layer of paint underneath. That's one of my favorite techniques to use, and it just never gets old to me. I like to create some texture that way, and it's so fun. So you can see here I'm coming in with some of those grays, just sort of dulling down some of the colors. Experimenting with that green, right? I put that blue green in there, which made it look very different. I put some of that yellow green in there. At this point, sometimes I'm like, ooh, yes, I love that. And then other times I'm like, ooh, maybe not so much, but I kind of have to keep going because that can change in this process of building up. Sometimes I'm not even really thinking about that either. But I'll tell you what, when I put that green, that limey green in there, that yellowy green, and then this lighter green, that really started to change things. I was like, oh my, everything's sort of popping after that. It starts to look a little three-dimensional. And it's hard sometimes when you find, like, to hold yourself back because it can get, I could easily overdo it too because it's so fun, and one color can change the whole entire color palette, like composition and how it looks. That very light greeny yellow was not a color I had made, but I ended up really, really digging it. here's where I decided to stop. I have a lot of lines. I have a lot of layers, lots of colors, a lot happening in this. And I'm getting out my color palette. All right, so this is what we decided to go with here. What I decided, I kind of took out that yellow and added green. And then I really like that yellowy green. I cut these out of cardstock, these viewfinders. They're like shaped like the letter L. And I happened to have black, was all I had, was black cardstock. So I have these viewfinders. Ooh, gosh, that's gorgeous. And I'm going to go through this painting and see if I can find like a color palette that I like, a composition. Really right now, I'm really looking at the color palette and what I think works, what I like and what I'm drawn to. I'd like to take this color palette and blow it up into a really big painting, but I'm not so sure about that greeny blue that I made. And I'm looking to see what do I like? Why am I drawn to it? Maybe even what do I like, but what would I take out or remove? And then I'm going to go through here and I'll use a pencil to outline either the compositions that I like or the color palettes that I like. And I also can move this piece of paper around so it doesn't have to stay this way. I can move with it, or I can rotate it around and look at different places that I might want to cut from. Okay, I found a piece. I found a composition that I really like. This is my MDF panel that I have here that I bought just like this. So I painted it. I painted the outside, the edges black, because I think that it looks nice when I glue the painting to it. But I just put this down and then I cut around it. And that's going to give me, the painting will be cut to fit that size panel. And I'm going to glue it onto there. I just have to make sure that I glue it the right way so that it hangs properly. So I'm checking that, double check that. And then I can come through here and I'm going to highlight some other pieces that I'd like to pull out and put in my big color book. I've sped this part up a little bit, but I just go through here. I use a pencil to outline it, and then I use my X-Acto to cut it. And I'll just keep searching. I just keep looking for that little treasure. This one spoke to me, that composition. Oh, I love that composition. And I really like the green, that blue-green in this case, which I wasn't super crazy about in the beginning, but that just looks like a beautiful little landscape. Now I'm going to use Elmer's clear glue because that's what I have at my house. You can use almost anything. That was enough what I just put on, and then I dumped more, and that was a little too much glue, so I ended up wasting some. But one of my kids was big into making slime, so I have a massive bucket of Elmer's clear glue that I will be using for everything to glue everything down because we have so much of it. But you could use Yes paste or any other, like a bookbinding glue or medium, like a matte medium to glue it down. I do a very thin layer, so I'm actually pulling a bunch of this glue off, and there's a paper towel next to me, and I'm wiping that brush on the paper towel. And this is just kind of a crappy little brush I have laying around my studio that I'm using. So I have most of the excess off that. I'm gonna flatten this. I'm gonna put this painting on there. I'm going to make sure it's right, again, the way that I want to hang it, because I have been known to put paintings on upside down and backwards. I do have glue on my fingers, so I'm being pretty careful about how I'm smoothing this out, but I don't want to get any bubbles. So I'm just smoothing. I wipe my hands off now. I'm just going to kind of smooth that painting down. Get all the air bubbles out. Flatten it out. I have oil pastels next to me because I picked those out. Once it's dry, I'm going to add some little details with these Sennelier oil pastels that I love. So it lined up fairly nicely. Once the glue dries, I can cut it if I need to. But now I need to let it dry, so I am creating a little space for it to sit so nothing happens to the painting. Usually I'd put some wax paper down, but I don't have any. Then I put a big jar on top of it and I let it sit for an hour. This is it. This is my finished piece here. I let it dry for about an hour. Now I'm coming back in with these delicious oil pastels. And of course, you don't need to do this. This is just something I do. Sennelier makes the most buttery, creamy, delicious oil pastels. And I put them, use some of it and smooth it out with my finger just for a little added pop and interest. It's fun because, people might look at it and not really know that there's oil pastels on there, but the oil pastels are just kind of making it even richer. They will take a while to dry. Since I'm working on paper, I'm putting oil pastel on top of acrylic, which is on top of paper. It doesn't take as long to dry. Maybe it takes a week to be fully dry. At this point, I am thinking about my composition, right? I was thinking about that when I cut this out. And then I'm just kind of putting a little white on there, bringing in this blue. I just happen to have similar color oil pastels to what I was working in, and it's kind of fun to just add a little bit. It reminds me of like rock and stone and earth and spring all together, these colors. There's something about this palette that I just really appreciate right now, being in Vermont and having it be a little greeny gray. There you go. I'm just thinking about what else am I going to add? Someone take this away from me, right? It can just, when do you stop? That's what we all ask ourselves. At what point do I stop? Probably before you have that thought. You probably should have stopped right before that. With the oil pastels, I can wipe it off if I feel like I did too much. But I actually end up really liking the finished product here. If you end up making one of these, please share with me. I would love to see your finished product. I am, or even if you're working on it, I am on Instagram at Katie O'Rourke Art. You can catch me there and tag me in your post if you utilized any of my videos for inspiration. I really want that gold Sennelier oil pastel. It's just so beautiful. I want to put it on everything. I really have to pump the brakes because I could just go on and on and on with this guy. It's really fun pastel to work with. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I hope you go make something fun for yourself today, whatever it is, or go for a walk outside, Do something nice for yourself. And don't forget my free class at KatieO'RourkeArt.com.